everyone. Welcome to Rawanee and the Poetry Society Stanza, Bonanza and Open Mic event. This is going to be an evening of international poetry with poets joining us with a number of poets joining us online from Ireland and a number of stanzas here performing in person. We have Islington Stanza and 3 poets who are performing with us in person today. Rawanee Stanza and 3 poets, including myself, performing. And we will also have an open mic event after that. This event is the second in a series of events that we've been having to, host different stanzas and bring together, multi-talented poets from diverse backgrounds, and to share poetry that is culturally diverse and rich. And every time we do that, every time poets from different backgrounds and communities get together, what we hear is very enriching and beautiful poetry. Now, in many previous events, especially ones that are bringing together different communities, I found myself discussing with others how poetry transcends borders, transcends geographies, and superficial differences to really connect hearts, to really bring people together as one single humanity. And I really hope that by the end of today's evening, we all leave this place feeling the same way. As we go along, I'll introduce the order of poets, the poetry recitals and the performing poets. I do encourage you all to applaud the poets and to engage with them as they perform, because that's when poets do their job best. And we really hope that all of us enjoy this evening. The first recitation will be from Emily Taylor. Now, Emily leads the stanza. She is a London-based writer and the rep of the stanza. Sorry, repeating myself here. Her work has been published in Anthropocene, the Coalition for Digital Narratives, Metacross's literary magazine, Pinhole Poetry, and Mind Adapt Literary Magazine. So a very rich background. Very pleased to have you here, Emily. Over to you.
Thank you for having me, Maniva and Billy, for organizing. My name is Emily from the Islington Stanza. This next one is called Girlhood. It does what it says on the tin. It's about girlhood. Naive again, blossoms in the hot turn pink couches gray. We lounge under rain, under summer roofs, hands open, radio on in our ears, the Oldsmobile, your room, everywhere sound can be heard. Legs on shower walls, we shave them side by side. Water bills, let the faucet run. Oatmeal body wash, bubbles wait to burst or run lazy down the drain. I've learned that laughter is nothing technical. That picture of us over the fountain, can't tell water from wet, lines down cheeks, creased eyes, wrinkles to appear. You wore your mother's dress. The days we dug through couches, magic dimes into dollars, swapped them for a bottle of battery acid, I mean vodka, I mean the way your brother protected us in days lived young, lived tenderly.
Thank you, Emily. That was some really powerful poetry. Thank you for that. Next up, our next 2 recitations will be from members of the Island Stanza, both of whom are joining us online today. The first recitation will be from Judy Sutherland, who leads the stanza, is an English writer currently living in North County, Dublin. She's published 2 pamphlets, The Ship Owner's House and Following Tessa. So over to you, Judy.
Well, thank you very much. Hope you can hear me okay. Thank you to Beniba for organising this reading and to Billy at the Poetry Society. The Island Stanza was formed 4 years ago during lockdown. We always meet by Zoom because we have members from across the island, from Cork to Belfast and Mayo to Dublin. Quite a few of us have English voices. The next one was written after a stay in a holiday cottage on the Antrim coast at the very north of Ireland, and it's about wishful thinking, and this one was published in Poetry Island Review. It's called Looking for Dolphins from the Carrotmore Road. All week I've been watching from this window out at the calm grey sea, as uninterrupted as a dish of mercury, the headland and the island underscored by a quicksilver line of light. The rocks and buoys rise and fall silently with Atlantic tides. Sometimes a small ferry chugs out dark blue on the Sea of Moyle. Tonight is our last night, and the wind's ramped up to gentle breeze, a Beaufort 3. Occasional white horses trot across the bay. And I thought I saw them then, a pitch and dip of black, arching their curved backs between the stony strand and Rathlin's syncopated lights, as a flight of oyster catchers piped themselves ashore. The pale globe above the island is not the moon, but the reflection in the window of the lamp in this living room. The dolphin pod might be just the leeward indigo of waves. It's not enough to think you saw them heading out towards Kintyre. The eye deceives. Sometimes the wishful are rewarded, sometimes not. And this is my last one. It was written after a gorse fire on Howth Head, which burned for several days. And this one was published in Shearsman. And it's got an epigraph from Norman Maclean's book, A River Runs Through It, and Other Stories. It's called Fire Season. It doesn't take much in the way of mind and body to be a lookout. It's mostly soul. We can smell the burning gorse 8 miles away. It billows into dirty cloud, yellowing the air as tobacco stains the ceiling. Now every continent has fire season. I think of those writers who like to work as lookouts in national parks, fire watching the forest for $12 an hour in order to have time to think and write the wilderness from the tops of wooden towers. I realised too late that I'm a nature poet. It's impossible to speak of landscape now without the feeling you are crafting elegies. If the Inuit have 50 words for snow, I need a lexicon of flames. How many species are there? How hot do they burn? What are their names? And thank you, that's all from me. Enjoying the rest of
the Thank you, Judy, for sharing those beautiful verses. Next up, we have Gaynor Kane, also joining us online from the Ireland Stanza. Gaynor is a writer from Belfast, Northern Ireland. She's published by the Hedgehog Poetry Press. She's curated events for and performed at several festivals. Recently, she was a guest editor for the inaugural issue of the Storms Journal. Her latest chapbook, 8 Types of Love, was released in July 2022.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. It's lovely to be here. Thanks to all the audience and the organisers. I'm sort of following Judy and have picked poems about place as well. And living in Belfast, there's always, you know, someone mentions the Titanic, and the shipyard has had a rocky past. And so this ends in the shipyard, but starts off with a lock. The lock. Your colour has me thinking of boulders along the edge of Belfast Loch, where O'Neill's red hand alighted after being cleaved and hurled from sea to land. Our mountains of fossilised rocks stacked at the docks, coal carted, then scooped in spade loads into sacks. You are tugboat shaped, my thoughts go large to Aral gantries, and liners nesting within skeletal stocks until fully formed. Rivets struck like rhythmic heartbeats, chocks lodged in place to stop them slipping out to sea, until waters broke and ships were birthed by tugboat midwives. Everything was monochrome, chalk, smoke, fabric, slack, dunchers, dungarees, grubby hands and faces at clocking off, men boots, still gleaming with pride, pride passed down paternally, reflecting on shiny surfaces until the yard was boatless, barren, and the gates all locked. Thank you. Thank you. And then the next one is a poem about geese. Every year, quite a large number of geese arrive in a loyalist estate called the Shankle Estate. So this is about them. Duck, duck, goose. The first year they arrived, people made jokes about there being enough time to fatten them up for Christmas dinner. We women in rollered headscarves, slippers, slacks, and anoraks came out daily with leftovers and the prized heel of the pan loaf. The thick one, not the skiddery one. Dogs that once roamed the estate freely, now chained up, howling, hungry mouths foaming. Liberal Icelandic greylegs flew across thousands of miles to sea to land in the lower Shankle on the green, and the signs that no one seemed to see said no games. Greylegs with grey-scale peppered plumage paraded around the square, but things are black and white here, except murals, red hands, and camouflage commandos. Big men with puffed out chests strutted about, warning that no necks were to be wrung, not even a single feather ruffled. These birds had their heads nestled under loyalist paramilitary's wings. In spring, they took to the skies in skeins of V for victory, now returning annually just before Remembrance Day wreaths are laid. Thank you. So there's a reference in this poem to the UDA, which is a loyalist terrorist organisation, but everything else should be self-explanatory. This is home. Under the shadow of the world's largest cranes, the girl in a designer tracksuit waves around Saturday shoppers as they saunter through city streets, arms evenly laden with plastic carrier bags. She's even quicker past the beggar, slouched against empty shop hoardings in Castle Arcade, until she sees the dog, stops, fetches out a rawhide bone. Without making eye contact, she realizes the homeless girl only has cardboard box windbreaker for shelter, a crocheted baby blanket draped over spider-thin limbs. Her exposed skin is snail grey. Guilt makes her scoop change, covered in pocket fluff, coppers jangle in begging bowl. I think of you all those years ago, after the Ulster Workers' Council strike in the 1970s, when I made toast in front of the open fire because we'd no electric or gas. The UDA put Betty into an empty house down our street. Rumour had it she never paid a day's rent in her life. By the time the strike was over, the firm you worked for had gone bust because they'd lost so many contracts. You exhausted your web of contacts. The Telegraph job section was thin, but the mortgage needed paid and Mummy couldn't clean enough houses to cover it. You went to Liverpool for work, docked where slave ships sailed from, scoured the streets for digs. No blacks, no dogs, no Irish. Now, this is my last poem. Some of you may have seen a couple of years ago Ursula Burns, a harpist on Britain's Got Talent. So she's a local musician, and I had the pleasure of seeing her perform one day, and this inspired this poem, which is dedicated to her, and it's called The World's Most Dangerous Harpist. She is Erin personified, her dress always grass green, long velour gown, hugging voluptuous curves with a slit up to her hip and plunging neckline revealing rounds of plump flesh. I suspect there may be a zigzag welt beneath those breasts, the scar of an imperial lion that tried to pull her apart when harps were burned and harpists hounded, hung, hunted to near extinction. She is a survivor, and yet for many years she was caged, confined to culture, grew long nails to pluck, taken to entertain, set out in front of the gentry to be gawked at. Even now she still loses her head, plays traditional concertos instead of satiric comedy in the key the opposite of F. Her harp is cut from a single piece of willow, carved by skillful fairies, intricate unending patterns, cornucopia crown of foliage and flowers, strings bestowed by Scottish unicorns, as soft as silk with dragon strength, they shine in the darkness. Her hair, colours of autumn blaze, linen flax at nightfall, bronze brooches, waterfalls over shoulders, down her back, flows in meandering rivulets around her waist. She used to conceal its rarity under dull brown or burly black, not now. Now she stands on stage in a blood-red room, acting the fool, but she's no clown. Don't you know she's the world's most dangerous harpist? For the finale, she lies down, rolls and writhes, thrums the quavering harp beneath bent knaves to bring us all to a climax. Thank you so much. It's been
Thank you, Dana, for the lovely poetry. Next up, we'll have Rawanee poets. We have a very special guest poet of Rawanee's, Rosdo. So I had the pleasure of recently being introduced to her, and I have been nothing but impressed both by the beauty of her poetry and the incredible work that she does. Ros is the co-founder of Young Roots and has worked with young refugees for over 20 years. She's a poet and a writer, has been featured in South Bank Poetry magazine, and received a commendation in the 2022 Freedom from Torture Poetry competition. In 2023, she facilitated writing workshops for young refugees, published in The Other Side of Hope magazine. Her debut poetry book, Welcoming Blue Robins, was published in June 2024 by Palewell Press.
Thanks, Maniba, for inviting me to read this evening. I'm reading from this book of poems inspired by the work I've done with young refugees, and including some co-authored or written by them. The first poem is from the imagined perspective of one of the young Afghan refugees I've worked with. It's called Some Hopes. Some hopes. For a pen that knows how to write in English, for Google Translate to exist inside my brain, to be able to sleep at night again, for bigger muscles from lifting weights at 3 a.m. in the gym next to Lidl on nights I can't sleep, for the Red Cross to find my family, that the girl I met on Facebook who lives in Pakistan will ask her dad if we can get married, to never be in trouble with the police, to one day join the police if the Home Office lets me stay, to lose the label of failed asylum seeker with no recourse to public funds, to stop eating chicken and chips every day, to one day eat my mother's lamb curry again, to stop seeing the moment the Taliban shot my father when I closed my eyes, for an end to the questions about that moment and where I was when it happened, on the way to school. What date it was, I don't know. What time of day it was, sometime in the morning. And how old I was at the time, 12 or 13, but I don't know my exact age. For someone to tell me it's all going to be okay. For someone to acknowledge it's never going to be okay. to see blue robins from Afghanistan fly through Croydon, that the red-breasted robins will welcome them and let them stay, to hear them singing together by the streetlights outside my bedroom window. This one's called Emergency Contact. My first task today is accompanying you to your college induction. The leader asks where you're from. You say Argentina, burst out laughing. Actually, it's Afghanistan. She smiles at your joke. I don't. I've heard it before, seen your lips stiffen into place. She asks about your family. You tell her you've had no contact since you left at 11. She asks how life has been in London. You tell her you were mute for the first 3 months. You tell her how your teachers helped, how one day Miss Gates pointed out you were speaking in full English sentences. You don't tell her it's been 9 years and you were still running to appointments trying to get your status. You don't tell her how your mind can't study anymore, how you lie awake all night, sleep all day. She asks you on a scale of 1 to 5 how satisfied you feel with your life today. You smile and say you feel very satisfied. She asks you for an emergency contact. You give her my name. She asks me to complete the form. I write down my work mobile number, hoping that any emergency takes place within my 3 working days. Boundaries. You slump into the opposite chair. My shoulders tense when I meet your eye. You answer my questions. I hold back a sigh. Busy myself ticking boxes and stare down at the form on my clipboard where I record what happened, the reasons why you fled, fearing your family could die. I ask where you live. You tell me nowhere. I outline your options in a steady voice, talking of referrals to hostels instead of flinging open my arms, holding you tight, stepping outside my role with another choice, inviting you home to offer you a bed, not sending you out to the cold, dark night. I'm going to finish by reading a poem by a young refugee from Albania. Shells. I hold the shell. It has many colours, brown, white, and a rainbow shiny centre. I hold the shell to my ear, hear the ocean sound. I remember collecting shells from the beach in Vlora. I remember how the sunlight made the shells glow. I remember the summer, the sun, happy with my family. I took the shells home, put them in a glass box. When I was tired of school, I would look at them, think of summer. I hold the shell now, and I'm back on that beach.
Thank you, Rose. That was beautiful and very heartfelt. Thank you for that. All right, now it's my time to recite, and I want to start by saying I've lost my voice. I've lost my voice. Red tonsils, inflammatory statements from the yet voice. And not yesterday, and nor today, may truth be spoke to power. In silence we cower. I cannot speak. Brown Muslim woman, raised to be meek, unable to talk of a something outside, on the safe side, drowning like migrant speech, like a strepsil, is gulped down. There's a lot I cannot say. School children, not allowed to pray. Passive-aggressive slides day after day. Free speech and life are universal human rights. Avoid whispers too, says the medical advice. I've lost my voice amidst plentiful liberty and freedom of choice. The semi-woke rejoice. Safety in numbers dumbed down in a crowd. But of this nagging pain and for it, I cannot speak aloud. That was the first poem. The second poem that I'm going to share speaks to and probably more somber subject. It is an attempt at finding hope through the lessons of nature, through spirituality, at what is a very dark and difficult time. This poem is a desperate attempt to find hope. It is a dedication to, it is a tribute to the beautiful strength and resilience of the people of Gaza. We have seen over the last 10 months or so how many of them are being butchered senselessly, how many of them are suffering, and this poem is a tribute to them. It's called The Land Knows. They say the earth carries memories, and branches sway news to the clouds. Swirls of wind rise like souls to the sky, and watchful birds the air surround. They fly across skies bearing the news, but the humans don't pay heed, they stubbornly refuse. For elsewhere, the world is consumed with excess. Amidst comfort and ease, misery is easy to forget. They say the sun still shines on a rainy day, but I can see no rainbow in sight. Perhaps the storm appears before a calm, and the earth bears witness to this plight. Howling winds of a raging tornado, cursed, agonizing cries of hurt rage, sweeping through lives, nothing spares in its wake. Hospital floors run out of space, paralyzed, unanesthetized, amputates, a branch, a tree, the mantle of the earth. Tremors through the land in the dark black night. For some it never merely rains, heavy it does forever pour. A harrowing, hollowing cry through the land does bore. From the eye of the tornado, misery is broadcast to the world. Travel far their bloodied cries, their suffering pierces my soul. Yet the storm surrounds a calm, serene despite their pain. Last goodbye to the soul of their souls. Many other goodbyes remain stories untold. The moon glares in white cold temper, and glowering sun in anger seethes. Birds and beasts begin to fear the heat, and trees tremble for what they perceive. Yet still, those who now walk through fire will emerge unburnt from this plight, as the heat has once before deferred for another bearer of light. In the eye of the storm, the vision finds clarity. The sun shines on a rainy day, and though I don't see a rainbow yet, they know and I begin to see, from where their souls this comfort get. The earth soothes for the truth it knows, and all of creation is reverent to their souls. With comforting, soft welcome, the land their bodies receives. From there, on that day, they shall rise, and the Lord to them shall speak. Thank you. And this concludes the stanza recitations. We do have a few words to say at the end of the stanza portion of the event before we move on to the open mic. I want to start by thanking all of the talented poets who have been here with us today, contributed their incredibly rich and diverse poems today. Emily, Paul, Suzanne, Judy and Gaynor who joined us online, Ruhi and Ross. It's been an absolute pleasure to listen to your beautiful poetry. And I'm sure that the audience has enjoyed it as much, so do join me in giving them a round of applause. I also want to say thank you to all of the volunteers and all of the helpers who are here. RJ, Essen, Laiba Khan, who's helping us online. And I do want to say thank you to Billy and to the rest of the Poetry Society for helping make these events happen. I will shortly hand over to Billy to share a few closing words. But before that, I would like to tell you a little bit more about Rawanee, which is a stanza of the Poetry Society and also a broader creativity initiative for those who are being introduced to us for the first time. So Rawanee is an initiative that initially started for the South Asian diaspora around the world, but over time we have come to include the global majority and anybody who really shares our vision for promoting authentic and rooted community creativity. We host a podcast, we publish work, our second anthology is open for submissions at the moment. Most recently, a bunch of us have collaborated to write a poetic play of a social and spiritual nature about the plight of migrants, and over the next few weeks we will be announcing upcoming readings of this play, so do stay tuned to our social media channels and our website. You can connect with us through our website. It lists all of our social media channels and our upcoming and previous initiatives, rawanee.com, RAWANEE. And now, before we move on to the open mic, I would like to invite Billy Manning, who outside of her role at the Poetry Society, which she performs wonderfully well, is a wonderful person and a brilliant poet. So over to you, Billy.
Thank you so much, Maniba. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And yeah, really, really huge thank you to Maniba for being such a great co-organizer on this. Thank you so much to our Stanza reps and our performers. And I'm really, really excited for the open mic portion. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about some other things we have going on at the Poetry Society at the moment. So a Stanza group is like a poetry group, and we have about 150 of them across the country and across the world. So if you're interested, come and chat to me if you're not already part of a stanza. And if you are part of a stanza and you're interested in taking part in a stanza bonanza, come and chat to me and let me know. One of our next events we have coming up is an online workshop with Patience Agbavi on poetry and food on the 5th of September, which should be amazing. We have an in-person workshop at the Poetry Cafe here on the 30th of October, which will be visual poetry with Astra Christodoulou. And we've also got reading groups for the Poetry Review, which I run, which will be on the 22nd and 23rd of October. You can find all this on our website, don't need to like hold it all in your brain. But yeah, just please come and chat to me if you have any Poetry Society related questions. I am here. And I'm just going to really quickly do a really quick poem. So, I mean, you can't really see, but it looks like this. Which, ooh. Okay, so it's called Hackney Playground 2006. It is how to speak that troubles you the most. Cold chain in each hand, the thick allergic smell of the rubber seats. You notice different voices displease different people, vowels peeling from your mouth wrongly. You find you can taste iron just by touching the metal. Consonants stay comfy inside your throat. Everybody wants to correct you on that. Move the swing like you don't care about having a good time. Boys from a different school laugh at your shoes on the overground. After a weekend camping with your old friends, boys from your school ask you why you're talking like that. You sing words wrong, but realise before you stop. So when they ask you with a snort what you just said, you can look them dead in the eyes and repeat the correct lyrics like what? Unroll your skirt, tuck it between your legs, swing higher. At worst, sometimes you speak in a surge of joy, and everyone's lips curl in tandem, a synchronized swim team, lifting their long, beautiful arms out of the water, one after the other after the other. Thank you. Before we move on, I also really wanted to thank our online participants. Thank you so much, Judy and Gaynor. It was really wonderful listening to your poems, and thank you everyone for your really wonderful comments on the chat. Performers who couldn't see the chat, everyone's been really enthusiastic about your words. And yeah, I'm really excited for the open mic section, so I'll hand back over to Maniba. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. So just to let everyone know, we'll be running an online portion of the open mic event, and we'll do that first, and then we'll have all of our in-person readers come up. So first up online, we have Liz Caston from the Bristol Stanza. And before we start the open mic, I just want to request all of the open mic poets to keep in mind that we have a number of poets to accommodate. We want to give everyone a chance. So please keep your recitations to 2 minutes. That's approximately one poem.
Hi, and thanks. I think you got my name wrong, Uniba. I'm Liz Cashdan, not Halston.
All right, we've got you.
Right, so I'm going to read one poem which is called But of Course. But of course, you know the long path down from the air raid shelter, filled in now, but where you once spent night after night. So follow the lavender hedge along that path, rubbing the flower heads between finger and thumb. Breathe in the childhood scent of garden path and clothes cupboard. Now you are in the orchard, apple trees, plum trees, fruit just beginning to ripen because it is August and the start of the end of the year. Now you are in the woods, oh city child. Did you ever imagine there could be woods like this, where sunlight dazzles through curtains of leaves? It is a fairy place, but also a let's do wild things place that will horrify your mother. So find the tree with the swinging rope ladder, the one that you and Jill swung over that high up branch last week with imagination and strength you didn't know you had. Climb carefully now, wooden step by wooden step, hand over hand on the scratch of the rope, till now your head breaks through the beech canopy and you look out across the chalk slopes of Buckinghamshire and down to Micklefield and beyond to all its unknown villages. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Liz. Next up, we have Kelly Davis from the Cumbria Stanza.
Thank you, Muniba. I hope everyone can hear me. First, I'd like to read the title poem from my newly published collection, The Lost Art of Ironing. I usually fold things straight from the tumble dryer, but yesterday I left some napkins in too long and they came out scrunched as old tissues. Nothing for it but to resurrect the dusty iron. And I felt almost joyful, pressing down on the hot metal, transforming crumpled cloth into neat squares. I thought of all the women before me, ironing each day, smoothing out life's creases, creating order from heaps of chaos. My mother-in-law lived through the war and ironed everything, dishcloths, towels, underpants, every bit of fabric in the house. She couldn't talk about her feelings, but she ironed beautifully. Her children knew she loved them because their sheets were always smooth as glass. Thank you. I'd just like to read one other tiny one in tribute to the members of the Ireland stanza. This is a response to Seamus Heaney's wonderful poem Postscript. Make the time to let your mind wander where it will. Resist the urge to keep working or scrolling on your phone. Allow your thoughts to unfold like magnolia buds, beginning tightly closed, ending as huge pale pink goblets, drinking in the sights, sounds, smells. And in that same moment, make the time to let the closed book of your heart fall open so you can read the poems pulsing through it.
Thank you for that, Kelly. Next up, we have Kerry Derbyshire, who's also from the Cumbria Stanza.
Thank you so much. This is lovely to hear everybody's poems and feel a part of this event. So I'm going to read a poem from my latest collection. Kelly and I both have collections out right now, a new collection. So this one is called River Talk. The poem is the last one in the book, and it's called To Be a River. To be that close, feel leeches, frogs and trout arrive and leave with the seasons, to have damsels, beetles finding their way, and clouds in brief attendance, admiring their fullness, to learn her songs, drifting morning air, largo, forte after rain, to borrow her summer pearls, winter glitz, the way she dances in days of sun, nights of moons, to measure her ever-changing weight of fell rain, scree, and all that is thrown at her, carcasses, tree limbs, blocking her every move. I envy the 100-year-old bridges grown weak at her touch, the boulders lodged in her bed like bodyguards at club doors, and to know who she is after drought, the scent and ease in which her skin recovers after scorching sun, the way she takes hellish weather for granted, greets floods, holds and lets herself go, breaking banks thick with foxglove and fern, sweeping villages and towns to one side, to be unafraid of losing herself to the sea. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kerry. Next up, we have Hannah or Mara, who's also from the Rawanee Stanza.
Hello everyone, good evening. I'm in Naxos. I hope I can talk above the sea that's behind me. The first poem I'm going to read to you is by a Greek writer called Tassos Livaditis. And the poem's called The Descriptions of the Calendar. I never would have imagined that so many days go to making such a short life. And the next poem I'm going to read to you is one of my own. It's called Woman, Life, Freedom, a Gift. Woman, made of water and asteroids, your bones glimmer with the dust that once formed us. Within you, millions of seeds wait for their ground. And just as seeds must grow, who can stop each one or time from turning? Who can stop a mother's love or constellations from celebrating their cosmic forms, the night sky embracing twilight in radiance? Who can stop a girl from growing into who they choose, or the blood that flows through a woman just as air moves, winds blow across oceans, carrying the vapor from the skin of one to touch the skin of another, two who have never met, unite in something they felt in the atmosphere? No one can touch, no one can stop a lioness's roar, just as no one can halt the final breath of life or a star from lighting the universe. Life beats to a rhythm, collective movements from all corners of the world. The universe hears us, pulsating an orchestra of progress. No one can stop the birth of galaxies, a mother's milk from flowing, a desert rose from, sorry, I've just lost my track here, grains of sand from uniting to form a desert rose, a crow's lungs from filling with air to call its call, dull a firefly from glowing amber, or mute the sweet potency of honey from its comb, fresh from wormies. No one can stop waves from turning to lap, and dance, moons in wax, splashing with fullness, or fish from coming to the surface of water, feed under lunar rays. And no one can stop the human heart from needing love, unknown realms from showering us with meteors, the rite of passage in a baby's cry, or the wisdom that roots pertain. Who can stop life? Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Not jealous at all that you're at the beach. Next up, we'll move on to our in-person open mic recitations now. The first one is from Jules Spark.
I'm trying to memorise my poems and not read them off the page. I'm going to cheat by doing one that rhymes, that's sort of gone into my body. Well, we're all on a loop. We're all on a loop, going round and round, a flickering Super 8 film without any sound. Our sprockets are rusty, our spindles turn at different speeds. The bulb's nearly blown as the audience leaves. There's a hair in our gate. Whose it is remains unknown. It's an irritant, yet a reminder we're not sat in the dark alone, watching the wall light up with colours and faces and far-off memories of foreign places, the fashions, the hairstyles, the parents, now gone. We're all on a loop, and thank you.
Next up, we have Warren Clemenson.
Okay, good evening. So this poem is called Friday the 5th of May 2023. The day became a landmark when the streets gave birth to chaos. The day after irrationality was unsheathed, childhood called up adulthood, seeking advice on how to live. Adulthood didn't have any answers. The day after seeing death wield his scythe in broad daylight, a mother gained her PhD in loss. The day after seeing a young man outrun by his destiny, a father was forced into retirement. The day after seeing a young man murdered, the mind suffered a miscarriage. The day after seeing a young man murdered for no reason, the heart performed an abortion. At midnight the next day, trauma was born. Although premature, it had a strong pair of lungs, so it cried out, seeking a mother and a father. Thank you. Very sorry.
All right, next up we have Jafra Naqvi. Yeah, okay. So Jafra will be reciting a poem in my native language, Urdu.
Can I just put this here? Oops, thank you. Hello everyone. Hi, I'm Jafira and Jafra in Pakistan. But here it's just somehow they just call me Jafira because I have an I in my name. So, but I like the sound of it because it sounds quite exotic. I think Jafira. Like Shakira. Anyway, sorry. So I wrote a poem about wildflowers. I get quite inspired by them, and you know why in the poem when I read it. I will read in Urdu, is that okay? Sure. And translate it?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, that's fine. Should I go by stanza, English Urdu, or just
Whole poem. Yeah,
the whole poem?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, wildflowers, they call jungli pool. Jungli pool in Urdu. Jungli pool. जन्नत मुझे नजर आती है वहाँ, जंगली गुल खिले होते हैं जहाँ, जंगली फूल खुद इरादियत से मोड़ देते हैं रुख हवा का निशान। धरती और आसमां के दरमियां बेअमानी में है दिलसोज अमा। जंगली फूलों का है तरीका जुदा, है फकीरी में भी अंदाज़े शहाँ, है फकीरी में भी अंदाज़े शहाँ। ये नहीं मानते कभी हार, आहा, गुंचा हो, गुल हो, शगुफा, कलियां, खाक में मिलके फिर वहीं उगना, खाक में मिलके फिर वहीं उगना, बाग के खुद ही हैं ये बाग़बान। हर नया दिन है एक नई दास्तां, है ये कुदरत भी उन पे मेहरबान। ये बना लेते हैं खुद अपना मकाम, ये बना लेते हैं खुद अपना मकाम, खाक में ढूंढते हैं आशियाँ। ये आया भी हैं और कभी है नया, जंगली फूलों से पुरबहार ख़िज़ा, जंगली फूलों से पुरबहार ख़िज़ा, है अनोखी अदा ये मुस्कुराए सदा। दर्द आज़ादी, दर्द आज़ादी, दर्द बेदरमा, दर्द आज़ादी, दर्द बेदरमा। That was beautiful. So much, thank you. I hope some people could get the drift of it.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks. So I'll just read the translation. The wildflowers have the will to turn their abode into Garden of Eden. Willpower of the wildflower can change the course of the wind. Springing everywhere, they have the resolve to change their destiny. Between the breaches of land and heavens is a disquieting peace. Shelterless they are, yet a shelter on their own. Wildflower in their free-spirited nature, spring out with grit, bloom with passion and gay abandon. Swaying in the quiet power that they behold, with heads held high in perfect rapture. Never defeated by circumstance, be it a sprout, a bud, bloom, or a wild rose. Seasons come and go, yet their will to reincarnate never dies, as the grandeur of the flower fields provide a spectacle. Reborn from dust to the gardener of their own rising ground. In sheer beauty and eminence, they find their own destiny. Each dawn unfolds a new story. In full bloom, standing firm, secured and embraced by Mother Nature, in perfect harmony. In nothingness, they find everything. An everlasting peace and eternal home. They belong nowhere but to the root of their existence. Sometimes you see them, sometimes you don't. In resilience, they bloom. An autumnal delight, a pretty sight even in fall. They smile forever, unique and special. They smile forever, unique and special. A cry for freedom, and freedom being their cure.
Thank you, Jafra. next up we have Kuba. I hope I'm saying the name right. Kuba.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't really have titles, but this came to me after a Buto workshop. And they danced for me. The women, the queers, the forgotten tired souls, touched a fire in their hearts. Gentle movements kissed the stars, golden light pouring from scars and wounds. Their pain was her gift, an eternal ancestral garden of powers, desires, dreams forgotten, unfurling together, the awakening.
Thank you. All right, so this brings us to an end of the open mic event and also to the end of, this poetry evening. Thank you to everybody who has attended today, to everybody who's attended online and in person. Thank you to everybody who's recited, to all of the poets from all of the stanzas who participated, to Billy and the rest of the Poetry Society and all of the others. Thank you very much for making this evening happen, and we hope to see you again. Thank you.